today I wanted to talk to you about HRT. Now, I don't know if it's me, but the world seems to have gone like HRT crazy. And I wanted to speak to you today from the perspective of a kind of yogi that's in the wellness space that believes in the inverted commas natural versus a woman who is postmenopause who is struggling with pretty chronic pain. So please grab a cup of coffee, do like and subscribe, and let's have a chat about HRT. Now in this video, I'm going to give you a little Hormone 101. I'm going to talk about where I'm at. I'm going to talk to you about some of the facts, some of the myths, and stay until the end because I will be giving you a few little lifestyle tips as well. So let's talk about HRT. And first of all, I want to say I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. Disclaimer, please, this is my perspective. Please make sure that you go and see your doctor and discuss your particular needs. This is my particular point of view. So let's kick off with a little bit of a Hormone 101 for those of you that don't know. And for those of you that do, you can skip forward this particular part of the video. So when we are in puberty, our hormones are switching on, and the main ones of those are estrogen. And think of estrogen as like your fertilizer. I love the way Maisie Hill, who's written a great book, Perimenopause Power, describes it as like the Beyonce hormone. You know, it's kind of like estrogen's like when you're feeling great after your period, you know, when you get your to-do list, it's the hormone that gives you your curves when you want to be sociable, when you want to be out there. So estrogen is like your fertilizer. And then you've got your progesterone, and your progesterone, which I always say wrong, is like your calming, you know, the feeling that you get before your period when you feel a bit insular and you feel heavy and you want to sleep more and you feel a bit slower. That's your progesterone. So in essence, what is happening is from day one of your period, your estrogen is rising, and you're starting to feel good and very extrovert. And then on about day 14 on a regular cycle, you will release an egg. If that egg doesn't get fertilized, then your estrogen starts to come down. But what happens is then your progesterone, your calming hormone, starts to increase. Okay, if an egg's not fertilized, then both of those bottom out, and then you get your period. And that carries on and that carries on. Okay, so that's basically a very, very simple Hormone 101. There's lots more in play than that, but that's a very simple Hormone 101. Okay, so this little dance continues, and then we hit perimenopause. Okay, and perimenopause, there's evidence to suggest now that it kind of does start in your mid-30s. Often it can start, you know, it's more common, the average age is 44, but we can start to feel shifts before that. And what's happening in perimenopause is that we're not always releasing those eggs. We're having what we call anovulatory, don't know if that's said right, cycles. So the brain is kind of thinking, hang on a minute, what's going on? So sometimes the hormones are high and sometimes they're low. And what's important to point out is the first hormone that starts to drop off is that calming hormone, progesterone. So for many of us, we can start to just feel a bit off. I know anxiety was one of my early symptoms in my late 30s. So your progesterone starts to go down steadily. And when your progesterone is going down, the estrogen, remember your progesterone is your lawnmower, keeping the estrogen in check. Your estrogen's going crazy. So it's going up some months, it's going down. And funnily enough, symptoms of low estrogen are quite similar to high estrogen. So think bloating, think sore boobs, PMS. So in perimenopause, we can actually have a lot of estrogen, okay? And then generally what happens is as we go towards menopause, and menopause is defined as that one day after 1 year of no periods. That's the medical definition, okay? So 1 year, no period, that day, that moment is menopause. After that is postmenopause. And when we get into menopause, postmenopause, our hormones are decreasing. And what's happening is our ovaries, where we've always produced these hormones, start to kind of shut up shop, and our adrenal glands that produce our stress hormones take over the role. And that's why stress is very, very important to look at this time of our life. Okay, so this is your little Hormone 101. So for those of you that already know this, you've skipped forward, but I just wanted to explain the hormone landscape before we start to dive a little bit deeper into HRT. So now I wanted to share my story. Now, I noticed shifts in my hormones in my late 30s. Had no idea what it was. There wasn't a big discourse about menopause. And then I would say that my perimenopause really kicked in early 40s, about 43, 44, really kicked in. And I would say that over those kind of next 8 years, I had probably every symptom. My first symptom was anxiety, was panic attacks. I had brain fog. That was probably one of the worst. Hot sweats, dry vagina, dry skin, itchy skin, feeling like things were crawling all over me, really low mood. I would say that, over those years I had lots of different symptoms. But I've been a yoga teacher since 2010, and I really took all of these symptoms as an opportunity to learn more about myself. And that's just me. I started taking lots of supplements. Every time I got a symptom, I really researched it. I started studying menopause. I became a menopause coach, a hormone yoga teacher, a menopause yoga teacher more recently. But I really started to really teach myself and treat every nasty symptom as an inquiry. Now that's easy for me to say. I live in a place where there's beautiful sunshine. I have space in my life. I can allow myself that. I don't have 2 kids. I don't have a full-time job. I live in a different in a different world to many of you watching this, and I appreciate that. And I went through my perimenopause thinking, I want to be a warrior. I don't believe in medication. I'm not the sort of person that ever takes a tablet. It has to be a very, very bad headache for me to take a tablet. I'll always go to my oils. I'll always go to, for natural solutions. And I think that is a big thing in this wellness space, in the yoga space. I always wanted to go through it naturally, and I wore that badge with pride. And then I did my menopause yoga training, and it kind of shifted my perspective. I was like, some of these women are really struggling. They're getting a lot of hot flashes. Yeah, they're doing everything right. They're yoga teachers, and they're really struggling. And I kind of left that course thinking, that was a bit too pro HRT for my liking, but I loved it and it was really interesting. But it did shift my perspective, and it opened my mind to realise that, medicine does have its place, as well as, yoga, lifestyle, living healthy, not drinking alcohol, all of these lifestyle practices that are so important. It did open my eyes, and it made me realise that, this kind of doing it natural way, maybe there is another way, okay? But for me personally, I thought, no, that's not for me. I don't want to go down that route. I still want to work with my supplements. I do take a lot of supplements with my powders. I do take a lot of powders, and they do cost a lot of money. But I'm fine where I'm at. I don't drink alcohol. I optimize my lifestyle. I move my body. Okay. So that's where I was at until now. I'm 2 years postmenopause. Until I would say about 6 months ago. It was sort of coincided with a time when I had a fall, but I don't think that was anything to do with it. And I really hurt my shoulder. And I'd had this frozen shoulder before, and then I got this shoulder again. And at the same time, I had this kind of hip pain. Anyway, fast forward, I decided that I needed to really go and get some tests, this shoulder pain, this hip pain, and I started to feel these real aches and pains, which I'd felt before, but my supplements had worked and my kind of inflammation protocol had worked. This time it wasn't working. So the shoulder healed, the elbow healed, the hip pain hasn't. And I would say probably for the last 6 months, I've had this chronic hip pain. So I decided to go and I know that I'm very fortunate, I have private health. So I went and had a DEXA scan, really important, to look at the bones and to tell us whether we've got osteoporosis, osteopenia. It affects 1 in 3 women over the age of 50 postmenopause. And so I got all my bones, I got my DEXA scan, all came back fine. I got an MRI and I have spinal stenosis, but they don't think that warrants this pain that I've got. The doctors here recommended that I go and have physio, which I've been having. And I can honestly say that I had this real intuitive feeling that this was my hormones. And the physio hasn't really moved the needle. I've started doing Pilates, that is helping. I'm rebounding. I can't do any weights because of the pain in my kind of back. And most nights it wakes me up. Every time I turn, I get pain. And in the morning, I wake up and I'm literally like a 90-year-old. Now I have to do like an ice bath. I have to go on my rebounder. I have to walk the dogs. I have this whole like protocol that I have to go through before I can go and teach a yoga class. And I've really been sitting with this and thinking, as a 51-year-old woman, do I want to feel this achy? Do I want to feel like this when I'm 70 or 80? And that's another thing. I had a cervical smear, I had a womb ultrasound, I had a breast ultrasound, and I had a mammogram. And in Spain, they're very strict. Okay, it's quite hard to get HRT here. They're very strict. They want to assess everything before they give you HRT. So, I was talking to you a little bit about perimenopause. In perimenopause, I was, up and down. But now I know that my estrogen is low. I know. I can see my bloods. I know my estrogen is low. I'm getting my progesterone checked this week and my testosterone checked this week. So as a woman who is going through these aches and pains in my hips, in my back, my question is, do I want to carry on? Do I want to be old and have these aches and pains? And my answer to that is no. And I know that I feel like I've had a full health screening. I know that I'm not going to be giving my body too much estrogen because my estrogen is low. I can see it. I can see the numbers. And I know that I, as an empowered woman, it's my birthright to feel good. And I don't want to have this hip pain. And so my decision is that I am going to go to my doctor and make an informed choice after doing lots of research on HRT to have the best treatment available for me that matches my blood work so that I can hopefully not have this hip pain. So let's talk about some of the facts, some of the myths, some of the statistics. And there are some great women out there doing some great work. Dr. Lisa Mascoli, Dr. Marie-Claire Haver, they're doing some amazing work. And I do urge you to do your own research for you. And if you are considering HRT, then this book by Dr. Louise Newson, The Definitive Guide to Perimenopause and Menopause, is really a great book about HRT. She's also got an app called the Balance app. And I'm going to be sharing some of the facts that she gives you from her book that are very science-based facts. So a few little facts and figures, first of all, from her book. So 3 million people, 1 in 3 postmenopausal women who are not taking HRT will get, and these are UK statistics, will get osteoporosis or will have an osteoporotic fracture. And the statistics in terms of fractures are massive. Like, when women are older and they have a hip fracture, their mortality post that is really not very good. And HRT helps us, as well as lots of other practices like loading our bones. Cardiovascular disease, our risk of a heart attack is 5 times higher post-menopause. Cholesterol. So when our estrogen falls, our bad cholesterol, our LDL cholesterol increases. And this was something for me. I'm healthy, I eat a lot of fish, and my cholesterol was really high. Now, I do have a history in my family of diabetes on my father's side, and I also have a history on my mum's side of heart issues. And I've also got a history of bowel cancer. My father had bowel cancer, and your risk is 20% lower of bowel cancer if you take HRT. So for me, the diabetes, the high cholesterol, that I literally fell off my chair, and that goes much, when our estrogen declines, cholesterol can get much higher. A 2022 study showed that we are at a 9% lower risk of death when we take HRT. Our immune system as well. So estrogen affects every single part of the body. So there are estrogen receptors all over the body. So our immune system, as our estrogen declines, as mine has, our immune system can become compromised. So, you know, if I get a cough or a cold, it takes me ages to shift a cough, much more than it used to now. So our inflammation markers tend to go up, so we're more at risk of osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and also aches and pains like I have. You know, the shoulder, the frozen shoulder, the pain in the hip, you know, and we're much more much more likely to get that. And also in terms of the brain, so do check out Dr. Lisa Mosconi's work. She's written a great book called The XX Brain, and she talks about the neuroprotective capacity of estrogen and what happens to our brain. Our brain completely shifts, and our brain cells actually die faster than men's, and that they believe that estrogen has a protective effect on the brain. So, you know, certain diseases, you know, like Alzheimer's and can be mitigated when we do take estrogen. Also, you know, our risk in dementia, there's a study done by the Arizona Center for Innovation, and they checked the brain. They did a big study, and they showed that women who take HRT have a 58% lower risk of getting Alzheimer's. And this is body identical, not synthetic. I'm not going to go into the details of the different types of HRT in this particular video. So yeah, you know, there are side effects of HRT. So I want to talk about some of the side effects and some of the risks, but there are lots of benefits, and you really do have to do your own research. I really sat with this, you know, and as I say, as a yoga teacher wanting to go natural, this has been a really big shift for me. But I want to talk to you about some of the risks of HRT that are often kind of glossed over a little bit. So many people, you know, will say to you that there's a big link with breast cancer. You know, one of my yoga teacher friends here, she was like, oh my God, you won't want to take HRT, it causes breast cancer. And there was a study called the Women's Health Initiative, and I'm going to refer to my notes here, that was started in 1993. And this particular study was stopped. And this study got a lot of bad press in the early 2000s for the links of HRT to breast cancer. But it has been debunked, and some of what they say about that study was this: they used synthetic estrogen, and a specific synthetic estrogen called Premarin, which was taken from pregnant mare's urine. The modern day HRT is called body identical or bioidentical. Okay, so it is made, the molecular structure of it is made from wild yams, and it is much more similar to our own body makeup. Now, with this particular study, they found links with breast cancer, with strokes, and with blood clots. But here's where the study was flawed. So we're supposed to take HRT within 10 years of menopause, that one day, that one moment. Now, most of the people, the average age of the people on this study was 63. They excluded people that were having hot flashes, God knows why. Half of the participants were past smokers, and smoking increases your risk. 70% were seriously overweight or obese, also increases your risk. And they found that this study and the people that they used it was a flawed study. Okay, so since they've kind of proven that, and but what happened at that time was that all of the media reported this link with breast cancer, and so that was the kind of media thing. So lots and lots of women were very scared of HRT, and lots of doctors wouldn't prescribe it. So that's kind of like where we were. So sort of fast forward to where we are now, and you've got body identical, you've got synthetic, and then you've got body identical and bioidentical. So body identical is what's recommended by the British Menopause Society. Bioidentical are different, they're more expensive. I'm not going to go into that too much in this particular video, that's another video. So the risks, in general, the risks of taking HRT are equivalent to having 2 glasses of wine a day. Now for me, I don't drink. So that's quite a big risk for me because I, don't really drink. Occasionally I'll have a drink, but very rarely. So there is a risk. That 2 glasses of wine a day is a risk for me. But that has to be, for me, weighed up against this hip pain, me waking up every night, me getting up going, from the sofa. Okay, so I have to weigh up that risk. Now, there are risks, and those risks, if you are somebody that is overweight, because when we're overweight, our fat cells produce estrogen. So you could be putting more estrogen into your body. So you are more at risk if you're overweight, if you're obese, if you're a drinker, and then if you smoke. And they're basically, the highest risk factors for HRT. So as I said, here in Spain, they are quite strict, and I feel confident that I've had all of the tests, all of the breast screening, all of the womb screening, and I feel confident that for me, this is a good option. And you really have to, look at your life. Having HRT, having testosterone can help our muscle mass, it can help our libido, it can help us feel good, it can take away the brain fog, it can take away the night sweats, it can take away that kind of horrible, foggy, low feeling. And I think it's really important that as women, we know that these tools are here for us and that we are empowered women and we can make these decisions. And it's important for us to share where we're at. Now, for me, I will be doing lots of research. I'm already looking at brand names. I'm speaking to all of my friends here in my menopause community, speaking to how they feel. I'm doing research. I'm literally every day watching podcasts. I know that I want body identical estrogen. I know the brand that I want. I know that I want to have micronized progestin. Again, I know the brands in Spain. I know that I want a little bit of testosterone to give my libido a little bit of a boost. And I will go and see my doctor with everything in English, with everything in Spanish. And I've actually had a really good experience here because I'm very informed. And when I go to see my doctors, I will make sure that I'm really clear on what I want and the consideration that I've given this and every different angle that I've really thought about. And I really think this is a big thing. But I think wherever we are as women, we really need to support and champion women. So I'm really grateful to you for watching this video. As I say, this is my perspective. I would love to hear your perspective. I would love to hear where you are on this journey. I'm a menopause coach, a menopause yoga teacher. I work with women on a one-to-one basis. If you're in Valencia, do reach out and let's connect. I would love to hear from you. I have a community for women in perimenopause to postmenopause called Nourish to Flourish, which I will link here too. Please do like and subscribe. Thank you for being here, for supporting me and for watching this video. Please do follow me on Instagram too. Thank you.